Welcome to Learn About Law. My name is Kevin O'Flaherty from O'Flaherty Law, and today we're going to talk about the top 5 reasons to hire an attorney for your residential real estate closing. While it's not legally required in Illinois to hire an attorney when you're buying or selling a home, it's really strongly advisable. So we're going to discuss why that is and pick each reason apart a little bit and explain them to you. So the number one reason to hire a real estate attorney when you're buying or selling your home is the attorney will make sure that the contract itself is fair to you and may even end up potentially saving you money. So when you sign a contract for the purchase or sale of a home, you have 5 business days basically to have an attorney review the contract. If the attorney wants to reject the contract during that period, he or she can do so, or alternatively, the attorney can request modifications from the other side and try to basically modify any terms that the attorney doesn't think is fair or that are correct. So the first thing you'll do once your realtor prepares the contract for you is you'll meet with your attorney and they'll explain the contract, make sure that it reads the way you understand it to read and the way you want it to read, and that you're getting the benefit of your bargain. We want to do this for 3 basic reasons. One is to protect your interest in case the deal falls through. So we want to make sure that you're not going to be on the hook for losing your earnest money, or if you want to be able to get the other side's earnest money, we want to make sure that happens if the deal falls through. The second reason you want to review the contract with your attorney is to make sure that if unforeseen problems occur between the contract and the closing, your rights are protected. You don't want to be losing money if things go wrong. And the third reason is to make sure that if there's disputes after the closing, again, your rights are protected and you're not going to be wound up in messy litigation. So the second reason you want to have an attorney for a real estate closing is it really will decrease the odds that the deal will fall through. So one of the attorney's most important jobs, other than protecting the interest in their client, is making sure that the deal actually closes, because just signing a contract isn't a guarantee that the deal will actually close. There's usually a month at least in between contract and closing, and there's lots of points where things can go wrong. So a home inspector might find unexpected problems with the home. The attorney will help resolve those issues and come to a negotiated solution so that the deal can close. There might be problems with the chain of title to the home. So that means that the person selling the home might not have the complete right to pass the home on to the buyer. There might be a cloud on the title, meaning that right is uncertain. So the real estate attorneys will work together to resolve any of those issues and make sure that the full title passes and closing actually happens. A third and the most common reason that a closing would fall through is if one of the parties misses a deadline that allows the other to back out. So if the deal is contingent on getting a mortgage to finance the deal, there's usually a couple points at which proof needs to be offered. If you're the purchaser, proof needs to be offered to the seller that the mortgage is on track. If you don't meet that deadline, then the seller can back out of the deal. So having an attorney to meet all of the various deadlines and make sure that none of those deadlines is blown, make sure that it basically ensures that the deal will go through to closing, which is really everybody's goal on both sides. The third reason that you want to hire an attorney when you're buying or selling a home is that in addition to decreasing the likelihood of the deal falling through, attorneys significantly decrease the likelihood of post-closing litigation. So disputes can arise for a lot of reasons in a real estate contract. One might be ambiguities or mistakes in the contract. So that's much more likely if you don't have an attorney to make sure the contract is clear and there are no ambiguities. Another reason is issues with the title that aren't discovered until after closing. So if the seller did not have the ability to pass on full title to the buyer and that's not discovered and resolved before closing through an attorney, then it might resolve in really expensive litigation after the fact. A third is problems with the condition of the property after it is received. So the closing goes through and the buyer discovers that there's issues with the property that they didn't know about before the closing. So having a good attorney on both sides will make sure those issues are resolved, negotiated before the closing occurs. Now, having a real estate attorney is not very expensive. They charge small flat fees, but litigation attorneys can tend to be much more expensive, and there's no cap on how much you might end up paying if litigation resolves. So number 4, real estate attorneys will save you incredible amounts of time. This almost goes without saying, but trying to do a real estate transaction on your own with an attorney would be like trying to learn everything about surgery and performing it on yourself. First of all, you'll probably fail. Something will go wrong. You'll make a mistake, and either the closing will be pushed back by several months or the deal will fall through. But even if you're successful, there's a lot of things that need to happen and obligations of both sides to get to closing, and this takes a lot of time. So you would have to learn everything you need to know about all these things and then execute them in the short period of time between contract and closing. So some of these things are, in addition to communications and information passing that has to happen between the buyer, the seller, and the lender, we're also dealing with municipalities. Sometimes municipal inspections or transfer tax certificates are required to be obtained. You're dealing with a title company. So there's a lot of moving parts, and the attorney is really the person that brings all those moving parts together. And it's incredibly time intensive, even for experienced attorneys. It's insanely time intensive if you don't know what you're doing. So the fifth reason that you should hire an attorney, the fifth of our top five, this will be the last one, when doing a real estate closing, is to make sure that title passes cleanly from the buyer to the seller. So this comes on both sides. The seller's attorney is often also serves as a title agent to make sure that title insurance is lined up. The title insurance company basically gives insurance in case there's something wrong with the seller's ability to pass title to the buyer. So the seller's attorney will examine the title record. It's not an easy thing. It's not a single sheet of paper that says, here's the title of this property, but they examine the record of how title is passed over the course of the years, the past several buyers and sellers, to make sure that there's a clean chain of title. There aren't any stray deeds that have been recorded by someone we don't know about, and there's not someone else who might claim to have a right to the property. The buyer's attorney is responsible for reviewing the survey of the land and the deed to make sure that you as the buyer are getting what you think you're going to be getting. So if there's an easement, if the government has the right to basically lay down utility lines on your property, or there's a right of passage through your property, you need to know about that before the property is sold. So that's what we're looking at when we look at the survey, and we want to make sure that the entire property you think you're getting is actually included in the sale. So the survey and the deed will tell us that. That's really important, because sometimes even if there's a fenced backyard, people, if they don't have a good real estate attorney, will later find out that their fence is on their neighbor's property line and their neighbor owns, a couple feet of their property. So we want to make sure at the outset that, one, the seller has clean title to the property and has the right to pass it on to the buyer, and two, that the deed is drafted correctly. Deed's a pretty complex document and highly technical, and that the survey, based on the survey, what the buyer expects to be getting is what they're actually getting in the transaction. So again, to kind of recap in closing, our top 5 reasons to hire a real estate attorney. 1 is to make sure the deal is fair to you and save you money by getting a good deal in your contract. 2 is to decrease the likelihood of the deal falling through. 3 is to decrease the likelihood of post-closing litigation. 4 is to save you time. And 5 is to make sure that title passes cleanly from the seller to the buyer. So thanks so much for listening. Stay tuned for more articles and videos at learn-about-law.com.
Thanks for watching our video. If you have any questions, feel free to comment below. Click the subscribe button for new videos every week, and download and review us on iTunes. Visit learn-about-law.com for other legal-related articles and videos. Visit our business podcast and video blog, seizeyourbusiness.com, and visit makingrealestatefun.com for real estate videos and podcasts. Call us at 630-324-6666 for a free consultation.